Hey, before we even get into this one, if you ain't subscribed, subscribe to a motherfucker, right? If you ain't, like the video, subscribe, go ahead, leave a comment, say you subscribe, let me know, introduce yourself, because our channel ain't that big yet, right? It's gonna get big. You wanna get in early. Get in early, you got some video requests, let a nigga know. Because I do charge for video requests, but right now, you make 10 comments before I reach a certain size, then go ahead. Comment on 10 different videos. Start the first one. Let me know you subscribe. Comment on 10 videos. Get a 10 video request. Right? I'm putting in some work. All these videos, not all of them, but most of these videos where you hear music in the background is produced by yours truly. Coach Brodie Dharma. You hear that tag, Amari Ball. It's not on all of the beats, but it's on most of the beats. Produced it myself. Made this content. Took my time, did my thing, put some work in, took some time, learned some game, took some time with the shit, right? So go ahead, fuck with a nigga, hit that subscribe button, hit that like, comment, let me know that you subscribe, and let's get it cracking. Now let's go ahead and get into this video. Let's go. I know there's probably a lot of guys on game who probably wonder why I talk about certain things, why I bring up certain topics. And a big part of it is this: I don't make content that's only for men. I make content that I send to women. When I do content or when I do coaching sessions, I probably have just as many women clients as I do men clients, maybe more. You know what I mean? So this is co-ed stuff, but it's not just co-ed. It's also for people at different levels. Not everybody is at a certain level of game. If you're not integrated, you still got room to grow too. You get what I'm saying? Like if your relationship isn't integrated and you don't know how to do it, and you're just on some, well, I'm just the man all the time, then yeah, that's good. Even if it works for you, that's good. But if you're not integrated to where you can have some emotion involved, if you're not integrated to where you can give a woman a little bit control and see what she does with it, if you're not in a situation where you can be in a situation where a woman can give you a high level of pleasure, and that woman doesn't flip on you the moment that you don't have your foot on her neck telling her what to do every 5 fucking seconds, then you can learn too. Right? The issue is premature integration and the lack of polarity in the first place. But a very important topic I want to talk about is this right here. This is the topic I want to talk about. Playing with fire. Part of the reason why it's important for women to understand these concepts is this. Because from a masculine dominant man's perspective, either shit's going your way or you walking away. Right? Either shit's going your way or you're walking away. So either a woman's attracted to you or she's not. And it benefits us as masculine dominant men to look at women as either she's attracted or she's not. But the truth is that attraction is not static. It's dynamic. It can change. If it can go down, it can go up. And the thing to understand about it is this. This is the topic I'm talking about today. Playing with fire. This is off the cuff, blurred pill rant like usual. Didn't put a lot of forethought into it. But playing with fire is basically when a woman starts to go through sexual disintegration. Now, a man can do it too, right? So playing with fire sometimes can just be being a flirt, not having proper boundaries, or being attracted to those boundaries to test those boundaries. Often, it can be a symptom of Delilah syndrome, playing with fire. Somebody can get overstimulated with something different than what they are. And in that situation, they can put themselves in a scenario where they can put a good situation at risk. Not every situation is a good situation. But sometimes people are going through psychological reactance. And in that place of going through psychological reactance, they can't help the fact that, sometimes it's about their person. And that's something that can be improved. If that person is willing, they're able, right? They have the knowledge necessary. They're making improvements. That's different, right? But sometimes playing with fire comes from a personal place of insecurity. Sometimes, let's say a woman was in a relationship from a very young age, right? Barely had sexual partners like that. Been with the same guy for a long time. Maybe they were prematurely integrated. So because they were prematurely integrated, part of what went on in that relationship at the beginning was somewhat of a masculine submissive type of thing going on, or a feminine dominant thing going on, right? To where it's a little bit transactional. And that's the social contract theory. That's the way relationship used to work, but that doesn't work in this day and age because there's so much stimuli. The stimuli is what leads to people playing with fire. So what I mean by playing with fire is this. Why put yourself in a scenario that's going to risk the situation that you're in using plausible deniability? You know, a lot of people cheat because they lack self-awareness, they lack situational awareness, and they lack character. They lack integrity, right? They're unsatisfied in their relationships. And instead of being able to communicate what will meet their needs, they just, they go outsource that in a way that doesn't fit the confines of what their situation is. Things that don't benefit them. You have to recognize when somebody has a capacity to be feminine and submissive with you. You have to recognize when somebody has a capacity to be masculine and dominant with you, right? When somebody has a capacity to respect and desire you, but just shit's going on with them, shit's going on in their life at that moment to where it can hinder that. You have to understand that. Like sometimes a woman will be in a position where she is getting her head boosted, right? Let's say she's with a man, and this is why I say that love is not enough. This is the reason why I say that polarity is more important than love to start off with. Because there's a thing called preference, right? When somebody loves you, sometimes you don't think that that person prefers you. Because love and appreciation without respect and desire or good dick and guidance, it simply turns into feeling trapped and obligated. And when you feel trapped and obligated, you feel psychological reactance because you feel like you're losing your freedoms. And oftentimes that may occur due to some type of overstimulation. It could be sexual overstimulation and you didn't establish sexual chemistry properly with that person. It could be the fact that they met you when you were at a low place. So now that you're starting to improve yourself, now that your cup is starting to get more full, you're starting to see yourself as better than that individual. Like they're not worthy of you. Or you're starting to be more caught up with the idea of curiosity than realized chemistry. More caught up with the idea of novelty than depth. I talk about having a rotation. I talk about dealing with multiple women. I talk about all these different things, but I don't talk about it from the perspective of saying that a man should spend his entire life running away from commitment, running away from having responsibilities, running away from committing to a woman. I don't believe that. That program, not just that program's not a tool, that's important, that's vital, but that rotation is just a tool to help sustain emotional discipline. That's all it is. To help sustain emotional discipline, to keep your cup from getting low, but also to help you learn how to work through your program, work through those processes, do those things in a way that will help you grow as a man. A lot of guys, they just out here fucking women just to fuck women. I haven't been with nearly as many women as a lot of guys have, and I know much more about sex than a lot of guys do. Because all my dealings with women have been intentional. I purposely set out to deal with different types of women, to deal with them in different types of ways, and then to hone in on how do I want to deal with the woman? How do I want to be perceived? How can I make myself attractive for the outcome that I desire, right? What ways do I need to present myself so that a woman can feel the way about me I want her to feel about me, instead of just saying submit. If you're a woman, submit to a man. No, it's just like people try to use Bible scriptures to try to get people to do shit that they don't want to do. I look at certain commands in the Bible, certain things like that, more so from a perspective of when you have polarity, when your energy's right, these are the things that are going to naturally occur for you. And if these things don't naturally occur for you, you're probably out of polarity. That's kind of how I interpret a lot of scriptures. Like there's a Bible that says, wife, submit to your husband. You can't really force yourself to submit. You can, but it takes some work that not a lot of people have the knowledge of or have the ability to do. So it just feels like a law. And what does the Bible say about the law, right? The law came so that sin would abound. You can treat shit in the New Testament as if it's a law, and then the more you present those boundaries that structure those things to yourself, the more it causes you to become duplicitous, because you're not doing it from a feminine submissive place of seeking to understand how to do that. trying to see that as a goal that seems pleasurable and desirable for you. You're seeing it as something that's going to trap you and put you in a position where you lose your freedom. Now, some of those things that people push on top of it are things that aren't even biblically accurate. And those extra things that they add on cause people to be unable to not do things that are, unable to not do things that are completely natural to them. And then they feel caught up in that, and then they have to get into certain energy, get into certain mindsets that will greatly hurt them and hurt their polarity and hurt their relationships, right? But one thing to understand about playing with fire, and I know I went to a biblical route with it, but there's certain things that come about. So playing with fire is a big thing. Like me personally, if I'm in a relationship and it's monogamous, I'm not a flirt like that. Some guys do it so that they can increase and strengthen their game, make sure that the game is tight. You know what? I'm not too mad at that, because you want to make sure that your game is tight. But my mindset is this: anything that you're doing when it comes to the opposite sex, or anything that you're doing when it comes to people that you may be attracted to or who are giving you validation, if that isn't something that benefits your relationship, and you have the situational awareness, the self-awareness, the integrity to be honest and open with that with your partner, to give them the opportunity to agree or disagree with that if you're a submissive, right? Or something to where you can see clearly how it benefits your relationship and your partner can agree with that, you're playing with fire. You're playing with fire. And playing with fire can have real implications. The non-stick principle works on playing with fire. So the non-stick principle can be something that helps you at times if you're in a toxic situation and shit's not working for you. But you have to understand the difference between psychological reactance and going through confliction with yourself about where you are in life or what you got going on, versus there really being an issue with your partner that they're not trying to resolve, and understanding how that fits into polarity. That playing with fire will fuck you up. One thing you understand is once you take the good and the bad away from things, instead of looking at it as good and bad, look at it as, how does this help my relationship? Or will my partner agree with this? Right? One way you can play with fire as a man is, let's say you're masculine and dominant, right? And then you go deal with the woman who's feminine and dominant, while you have a woman who's masculine and submissive, or while you have a woman who's feminine and submissive, and you working on shit. You can get caught up in the moment if you allow her to dominate you, or if you get addicted to how you dominate that woman and your emotions get involved, right? And then you get attracted to a challenge, and you have a woman who's feminine, submissive with you. She on your program. She's trying to fuck with you. She care about you. She's putting in effort. But this next woman, oh, she just so bad, right? Or this next woman, oh, she makes you feel handsome, right? She makes you feel sexy. Or this next woman, she makes you feel desirable. There's a place for that sometimes, and you can be honest about that. I've been honest about it, been in mono-poly relationships before. But what you have to understand is that you can be in a situation where you're dealing with one woman who is trying her best to be good to you, right? She's trying her best to be good to you. And then another woman ain't shit. She's not the long-time type of situation. She's not the long-term type of situation. And if your emotions get involved to that, then you're going to start neglecting the woman that you have at home to try to deal with somebody else. Like I said, if it doesn't help what you got going on, it hurts it. One thing women will do sometimes is they'll be in an insecure place, or maybe they met their man when they were in an insecure place. And then let's say they get in better shape. Let's say a man gets some more money, and then you start feeling like you're better than your partner instead of trying to help them reach a place where they're also going to improve. See, part of sexual integration is being at a place where you understand that sexual attraction, respect, these different things are dynamic, and that there are ways to improve these things over time. So something a woman may do sometimes, and sometimes playing with fire, it just starts with a thought. Simple thought. I deserve this. That, and that's a real simple thought, but sometimes you don't. Like sometimes a woman will be dealing with a man who's masculine and dominant. He's setting her expectations. He's not trying to emotionally overstimulate her. Another man can come along and try to treat her like she's the best thing since sliced bread, when really she's not. He might be doing that because he's feminine dominant, and he's simply just trying to manipulate her so he can get the ass and he gonna run on his way. Another man may be feminine and submissive. That woman is not going to be able to respect him over an extended period of time. She's probably not even going to be sexually satisfied by the dude, but at least he makes her feel good about herself, right? What you got to understand is that when you put yourself in certain scenarios, you're liable for the non-stick principle to happen. You know, when you allow certain mindsets to become pervasive inside of yourself, you're liable to go through the Delilah syndrome. You can get into a situation where you're chasing dragons. Like, let's say you're a woman, you're dealing with a man, his dick is good to you. But then you just start thinking about bigger dicks and bigger dicks and bigger dicks. You might end up chasing dragons. There's no guarantee that you're going to find a man who's going to love you the same way that man did before. And then now you may be overstimulated. And it's not impossible for that smaller dick to hit just as good or better than that bigger one. But there's a process to go through where him not being your guilty pleasure makes it impossible for that to happen. Makes it impossible. And the way you hurt him may put him in a situation where he's not going to be willing to move forward with you. He's not going to be willing. He's going to be too emotional over the fact that you hurt him because he's emotionally involved and invested in you to be able and willing to move forward with shit. He might lose emotional discipline. It may become a daddy versus father situation where psychological reactance will really play a part. Sometimes playing with fire is just talking to your bitter ass friends. Your reacting ass friends. Your dominant friends who aren't even satisfied or have any sustainability within their own love lives, their own sex lives, but because they're saying, oh, I got this man to do this for me, I got this man to do this for me, I got this, ooh, he does this, he does that, then now you're starting to think, well, I think I deserve that, I would like to have that. But instead of thinking of a way to actually get there with your man, all you're doing is think, well, maybe another man can do it for me. Or maybe, maybe he's not good enough for me. When chances are the person you with is probably on your level. There's a good chance. You got to think about that shit. Sometimes premature integration makes these things difficult to happen. Right? Because a man can go from feminine and dominant to masculine and dominant. A man can go from masculine submissive to masculine dominant, right? A woman can go from masculine submissive to feminine submissive. A woman can go from feminine dominant to feminine submissive. These are things that can happen. But if you're overly focused on things going outside, that novelty, that curiosity, that excitement, that newness is something that will give you such a shock to your system that you're damn near not going to be too worried about the person that you already have right in front of you. Right? Playing with fire is a dangerous thing, right? And you don't even have to be in a relationship to play with fire. You can simply be in a situation where man's giving you some good dick and some guidance. He's showing he has a capacity to be masculine and dominant. He shows that he cares about you. He shows he has a capacity to lead. And you say, okay, well, I'm going to go hang out with this person. I'm going to go do this using plausible deniability. Or let's say you're at an insecure place. So you're like, you know what? I want this person, this person right here, because they don't know me. I feel like the way they feel about me is more genuine than this person who's right in front of me. Right? And there can be a little bit of truth to that. But sometimes how it is like this, sometimes the way you behave with the person that you're with over an extended period of time is part of the reason why they don't feel the same way about you as somebody who you just met. And if it's a real situation, there's real love there, it makes more sense for you to go through that process, to go through that work, to see what you can do. If they're willing to go through that process, then you can go through those steps and you can sexually integrate, but you're going to have to take a step back, go through the biology first approach, right? Establish the sexual chemistry, you got to establish the sexual polarity, the dom-sub dynamics, the masculine and feminine dynamics, and then you start integrating after you reach a certain place of sexual polarity. But once you start feeling entitled to emotional stimulation as a woman, right? Once you start getting addicted to pleasure seeking as a man, and you're just looking for a challenge, and that woman doesn't feel like a challenge to you anymore, you're feminine dominant, you're emotional, you're just looking for the next big thrill, the next big thing. There's so many ways that shit can fuck you up. You got to understand that when it comes to dating and relationships, love is a real thing. I don't want to discount love when I'm talking about stuff. I don't. I don't want to discount the time that you spent with somebody. People have these narratives about trauma bonding these days. Yeah, trauma bonding can be bad, but you can work your way out of that, and you can use trauma bonding to your favor. these days people just have a microwave mentality about relationships. And people say, well, I don't, and there is the sunk cost fallacy. That's true. But there are things that can create real change. If you recognize that you played a part in the sexual polarity being off, you can take responsibility and do what you can to fix it. Get more secure. You need a base, like I usually say about security. It works like this. You need to have a certain level of self-soothing skills, right? Masturbation can be that. Going and looking at yourself in the mirror can do that, right? Just take some time every single day. Go in the mirror, get naked, look at yourself, and lust over yourself. But you still need to have a certain level of security that's going to be based on how your partner feels about you, right? And you need to be willing to make certain changes to ensure that they feel the best way that they can feel about you within an understanding of sexual polarity, right? But one thing that can happen is you start outsourcing your desire for validation. That's really where playing with fire comes from. Sometimes a woman can just be seeking emotional validation or wanting to feel sexually desired or whatever it is by just somebody new. Sometimes a man will do the same thing. And when you do that, just that shock to your system, that can create a certain effect to where, let's say, instead of just desiring the validation of your partner, you say, okay, well, I'm going to go on social media. And I want this person to validate me and this person to validate me. And now, okay, well, they like my picture. So I wonder if I like some of their stuff and they're commenting. What if I comment on their stuff? And then you go back and forth, not understanding that as a woman, when you do that kind of thing, that dude is thinking about fucking you that whole time. And if you know that it's not going to benefit your situation to fuck with a dude, why are you talking to him, building up that desire in his mind? Sometimes a woman has a platonic friend who she knows wants to fuck her. She knows. And she keeps using him for validation. And you don't know whether or not that man has the game to flip that shit on you. I'm the type of nigga who has done that. I'm the type of nigga who will do that, right? Like, and it's not always something I'm on. I like to take more of a masculine dominant approach. But sometimes when you're playing with people, you're putting yourself in a situation to get played, right? When you get filled up to a certain level of validation, then you want to share it with somebody, right? You want to reciprocate it, just like my video on the mana principle. You get your head boosted up enough, you feel good, you feel desired, you feel something new. You got to know how to rekindle that newness within your relationship. You got to know how to rekindle it. Because if you don't know how to rekindle the flame, you're just going to be looking for new flames. And you don't know how to sustain a flame. So that flame just always going to get burnt out. And it's just going to be talking stage, talking stage, talking stage, talking stage, talking stage, talking stage. And every time you get rid of that newness of that feeling, that talking stage, it just gets old. And after that talking stage, it gets old, you get burnt out, you go to the next person. For a man, it might work where, okay, I'm talking to her until I hit. After I hit it, I got my fix. Now you out of there. Right? I got her to have all the type of orgasms I wanted to have. Okay, cool. I got everything I wanted out of it. I'm out of there. What is your long-term game? What is your long-term plan? And how does dealing with each individual that you deal with help with your long-term plan? If your long-term plan is about the person that you're dealing with, then don't put yourself in a situation and sabotage that. Playing with fire. So many people play with fire. I know when I've been in relationships, I wouldn't even flirt with women. If I knew I've had sex with a woman or a woman wanted to have sex with me, you know what I used to do? This is some funny shit. There's been women who tried to get me to cheat before, and I tell them I was praying for them. Or I wouldn't really respond to their messages. Right? You just do certain things in a way to where you don't put yourself in certain vicinities. And you got to understand that your dynamic has to be equivalent to the level of the people who you're going to come in contact with. So sometimes a woman, like let's say I'm an artist. So I know that for me, there's certain places that I plan to go in life that I could have a woman, but when you're in a small town, you don't ever plan to leave that small town. It's no big thing for your woman to, to occasionally, kind of have a little crush on a celebrity, to lust a celebrity a little bit. You know what I mean? That's natural. That comes with life. You're probably going to do the same thing. But something to understand is that if she doesn't see you to the same level or a greater level than the men who she's going to come in contact with in her own mind, and you have more power over your preferences than you think you do, then if you ever get to that place, it's going to fuck it up. That's like people who, they're in a relationship and then they go to college. Now, I went to college in a different city without cheating. And to my knowledge, the girl I was with did the same thing. Right? To my knowledge, right? Because you never know.
But that's a woman who I believe is pretty honest. And as much as I study women and the patterns and shit like that, if she did, she hit that shit pretty well, right? So it's a matter of what level do you see your partner on. I know when I started going out to college, at first I would avoid certain situations. I would avoid certain social engagements. And I ain't saying you got to be a hermit or some shit like that. But if I knew my relationship wasn't on a certain level, I wouldn't play with fire like that. A lot of people, their relationship ends as soon as they go to Hollywood. Their relationship ends as soon as they move to Atlanta. Their relationship ends as soon as they go to New York. Their relationship ends as soon as they go to Houston. Their relationship ends as soon as they go to Miami. Because they have a false sense of security about how secure their relationship is. So there's just certain things you probably just shouldn't do in the first place. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. You should have certain rules. You should have certain boundaries, right? If you're in an open relationship, you gotta keep track of what psychological reactance is and understand when you playing with fire. You can be in an open relationship and play with fire. You can, right? You know, that's not something that's impossible to do. Like, people talk about things like one penis policies, monopoly relationships. You have to know what value you're adding to a relationship, what value the person's getting out of the relationship, and not threaten the value that you're adding to them, and not threaten the value that they add to you by putting yourself in a situation where somebody's getting overstimulated. You can only really control yourself, but you want to deal with somebody who respects you enough, who desires the situation enough, who wants things to work out well enough, so that when they see evil, they go the other way. Flee from evil. Right? They say flee from sexual immorality, right? You got to flee from that shit. And what I mean is you flee from the thought. You don't just flee from, you flee from the thought. You don't just say, okay, well, I'm going to go hang out with this guy, and if he tries to do something, I'm going to stop him. That might work the first couple of times, you know what I mean? If you're coming in contact with somebody you're not that sexually attracted to, a simp. But if you are with that man, he's working with you, chances are you're going to get some game, you're going to get some sexual skills, you're going to get some flirtation skills, you're going to get some seduction skills that are supposed to be used with you and your man. And if you start taking those things and trying to try them out on a bunch of other people because you're insecure and you desire validation, you're going to put yourself in a situation where you're going to come in contact with some shit that he might not be able to do. Or you may not have been receptive enough for him to do it if your relationship is prematurely integrated. This is some real shit. People don't think about this stuff so much. I think about this stuff. Situational awareness, self-awareness, integrity. Attraction, desire, respect. These things are very important. You have to protect your preferences. Because there are certain things that wouldn't be wrong in your situation, but they'll still be playing with fire. I know for me, I was in a monopoly relationship for a while, right? And I was honest. See, some people, when they want to go deal with multiple women, they lie. No, I just told one, like, no, you're not up to my sex drive right now. And, I care about you. I want to work on things, but it wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be right for me to put myself in a situation where I know you can't fully please me and satisfy me. And I don't feel like I satisfy you up to my level of standards. So for us to get into a monogamous relationship, that would be something that would, I wouldn't want to cheat on you. So I was just honest about it. And when I was honest about it, one thing I did that she never put on me, said I couldn't do. I said I was going to limit the amount of women that I was dealing with at one time so I wouldn't get overstimulated with variety. She never told me to limit how many people I slept with. Never did. One thing I did was I never focused on how good some pussy was. I took a dominant, masculine ego to the situation, right? A dominant sexual ego. And I made sure that the things that I focused on were things that I could teach her, right? I made sure the things that I focused on were things that I could learn to improve myself. I wasn't sitting there saying, oh, this woman is so bad. Yeah, when I was in a monopoly relationship, I definitely had sex with women who looked better than her. Definitely. But I didn't give those women more time, more energy because of that. And there were a couple times where maybe it was a woman who I might have used to have a crush on from back in the day, or a woman who just fit a lot of my archetypes and fit a lot of things we had in common. But guess what? Sometimes you deal with those women, that shit comes in and goes. And if you throw away a good situation because something seems good on the surface for a little while, and you don't vet, you don't take your time, you don't go through that process of really getting to know an individual, vetting them to see if they can really get on your program, this shit's not gonna work. I'll say this: if you're a man, you're dealing with a woman, you got other women, don't let a woman treating you better than your girl treats you for 3 days be something that causes you to want to replace the time, attention, and energy. There's women I missed out on, right? Because I wasn't going to sit there and let a woman who just did more for me in a couple of days, gave me more energy, be something that caused me to just get so emotionally invested that I was going to be willing to throw away something that was important to me. I'm just giving y'all niggas some real talk right now. Some niggas may not say this is game. I don't really give a fuck. This is something that people need to understand. I ain't focused. Like, to me, I say, all right, cool. Whatever level the woman I love was on, I wasn't going to give another woman more credit just for being more attractive. I wasn't going to focus on how good some pussy was. Because once you get caught up in pleasure seeking as a man, you're going to destroy your life. I know I keep saying that, but that's something that's very important to understand. Very important to understand. Because if you don't understand that, you're going to put yourself in a bad spot. You're going to put yourself in a bind. And you're going to realize you made a dumbass mistake. As a woman, listen, on some real shit, if you're in a prematurely integrated relationship, chances are the shit's going to be on and off a little bit sometimes. But if you know that person loves you, know that person's there for you, then don't just say, okay, well, I'm on a break, so I'm going to do whatever. Right? Protect your preferences. Because if some of the issues may have been sexual, then if you go fuck somebody else, then you might go through the non-stick principle. That might fuck up his emotional discipline because he already emotionally invested in you. It might fuck up your own preferences to where you don't see the man the same. It might cause you to go through daddy versus father effect, right? To where you're unable to be as honest and open with him about your experiences. And then you gonna realize, okay, cool, I'm gonna go back to him, or I wanna work on things. And then now it's too late. Now you done fucked it up. And sometimes you might be able to still work on it, but the situation may not feel the same. Protect your preferences. And this isn't just something about women and stuff like that too. Like, a man could be feminine and submissive too. As a man, if you're feminine and submissive, a lot of things are going to be based on your emotional desire, right? You know, you can get overstimulated by being prematurely integrated with somebody else. You can meet a woman, y'all have so much in common, y'all talk so much, but that woman ain't even being sexually available to you. You're just getting addicted to her conversation. And maybe your woman, the woman who you love, the woman you with, her conversation ain't as good as this other woman. She may not be into as many things, but that's a woman who shows effort to try to understand and get with the things that you're into, who genuinely starts getting into those things that you're into, than a woman who comes to you and appears to be the full package up front. That's a trick. You know, not a trick as far as paying for pussy, but that's a trick as far as, you know, there are some other issues there. That's why somebody else ain't locked her ass down already. Now, if a situation just really ain't working, y'all ain't compatible at all, then sometimes that's your exit. You know, sometimes you do need to make an exit. Sometimes the non-stick principle is good. Sometimes, you know, the Delilah effect, it can work in your favor. There's different things that can happen, right? Like, if a nigga's just fucking your life up, he lying to you, you know, he doing all kind of shit, he got multiple women not telling you about it. Sometimes use the non-stick principle, use the Delilah effect. You know, find a way to lose attraction to that man. But protect your preferences. Don't put yourself in a position where you're going to look a gift horse in the mouth about a person who can love you and be good to you, right? Because at the end of the day, that's still something that's important. I talk about sexual polarity as a priority, but not everybody gets this knowledge before they find somebody who they can really love. And if you get this information before you find somebody you really love, then, you know, if you don't, then there's a process to go through. When you go through that process, it's important that you protect your preferences. So what I got to say about it is don't be out here playing with fire. It's Brodie, I'm out.